All right, so good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our session this evening. Before we get started, could you please confirm whether you can hear me well and you can see Perumal's screen? If you can just put that on the chat, we are good to start. All right, thank you so much. So once again, good evening, and here are some housekeeping points which we want to lay off before we get started with this session, right? So please keep yourself muted throughout the course of this session. And when it comes to questions, yes, you're allowed to ask questions. So, but we would like you to park those questions towards the end of the session so that once Perumal is done with this session, he can take the questions at the end, right? However, when Perumal is doing some demos or during the course of the session, if you have any doubts, please keep them coming over the chat so that once Perumal is done with this session, he will, start picking up those questions and he'll start answering it. In addition to that, myself and Vijay would be there to answer the questions which comes in the chat as well. Right. You can find the list of all the webinars from our meetup group in the link which is given there. So later when the slide is shared with you, you can, go to that link and add yourself as a member to that meetup group if you're not already registered as a member. And of course, today's webinar will be recorded. So after this session, we will be sharing the webinar recording as well as the slide deck with you. So that's all I have, and over to you, Perumal. Thank you.
Thanks, Ignis. Good evening to all. This is Nasma Parmal Chandramohan. I'm an Office 365 MVP for past 4 years, and I'm the co-founder of GG Technologies Private Limited, which specializes on Microsoft Teams migration and Planner migration. And we provide productivity solutions built on top of Office 365. And our today's session is on Microsoft Team governance. Actually, governance is not about limiting the freedom. To properly manage Microsoft Teams, you need to implement proper governance in place. Without that, there will be a lot of chaos. So, uh, governance is not about limiting the freedom. The point here is that you want to make your users to work in a compliant fashion in their day-to-day job without affecting their productivity. So without proper governance in place, what are the cases or what are the statements you as an IT admin you will hear throughout your day is that there will be too many teams and there will be too many sites created in your tenant. And many of those going to be duplicates and which in case creates lot of confusion among your users. And there may be cases that in some confidential team, the guest users might have joined or the documents get shared with the guest users, which you don't want to get shared with the guest user. And there are chances that your intellectual property might get lost in those cases. So all of a sudden, what the admin going to do is that they will lock down the entire environment. So once the lockdown has started and people won't get the access what they need, and also there won't be proper collaboration among the users, and which in turn affects the productivity and performance of the users. So these are some of the common concerns you might hear when you don't have proper governance in place for Microsoft Teams. So actually governing the Microsoft Teams is a bit complex part, and in today's session we are going to see about what are the controls available in Microsoft Teams to govern Microsoft Teams. So to govern Microsoft Teams, actually we are going to govern Microsoft 365 groups. So actually, Office 365 Groups is renamed as Microsoft Groups, Microsoft 365 Groups very recently. But today in this session, I will be using the name Office 365 Groups. As I am more familiar, I get used to the term, I can't come away now. So the point here is that to govern Microsoft Teams, we need to govern Office 365 groups. We will be using a lot of controls that are available in Office 365 to govern teams. Why we need to govern Office 365 groups? The reason is very simple. So whenever you are creating a team in Microsoft Team, In the backend, actually an Office 365 group get provisioned. So Office 365 group is the backend for Microsoft Teams. Due to that reason, we are going to use the controls in groups to govern teams. So what is Office 365 groups? So Office 365 groups is not an app in Office 365. It is not an app as a SharePoint or Planner, something like that. It is actually an experience you get, or it is an experience your users will get once you provision the Office 365 groups in Office 365. So when you create an Office 365 groups from either from Outlook, Team, or SharePoint or Planner, wherever the place can be. So very first thing what happens is that you there will be a new group identity get created in Azure Active Directory, and then your users get uh, get populated with the experience of the groups. So what are the experience your users going to get is that they will be getting a group mailbox, they will be getting a team, they will be getting they may get an Yammer group or a team site in SharePoint and a planner plan. So it is not a simple app. Office 365 group is not a simple app. It is a experience your users are getting, and Office 365 group is the core fabric which binds and keep all these components tightly packed together and work in a proper synchronized manner. So how you can create an Office 365 groups? As I mentioned earlier, whenever you create an Office 365 groups, you will be provisioned with a group mailbox and then a planner plan and then a team site in SharePoint. These are the things basically you get when you create a Office 365 groups. So suppose you are creating a planner plan, or you are creating a group from Outlook, or you are creating a team site from SharePoint. In all these three cases, actually you are getting a group mailbox and then a SharePoint team site and then a planner plan. This is what will happen in the backend. Suppose if you are creating a team in Microsoft Teams, in that case you will be getting an group mailbox, team, and the team site in SharePoint and a planner plan. Suppose if you are creating a group in Yammer, in that case you won't be getting the group mailbox, you won't be getting a Teams team, but you will be getting a group in Yammer, you will be getting a team site in SharePoint, and finally a planner plan. So according to the place from where you are creating groups, the experience differs. For example, uh, suppose if you have created a group from Outlook, in that case, your users will be getting group mailbox for the conversations. Suppose if you are created a Teams team, in that case, your users get both the group mailbox and team for the conversations. So in that case, you will be getting two kind of experience for the conversation. Suppose if you are creating a group through Yammer, in that case, you will be using only the Yammer conversation for the conversation experience. The major difference is that suppose you have created a Teams team. You have created a Teams team. When you create a Teams team, actually what you can do is that you can add a team to an existing Office 365 group also. That's very much possible. Either you can create a new team or you can attach a team to the existing Office 365 group. But in the case of Yammer, once you created an Yammer group, you can't attach a team on top of that. The very basic reason is that for Yammer group, no group mailbox get provisioned. Due to this reason, you can't attach a team on top of Yammer group. But the rest of the experience are going to be same. You will be getting a team site in SharePoint, and for task management, you will be getting a planner plan, and then you will be getting an OneNote too. That's possible. So now you may get some insight of why the basic understanding of teams or why the basic understanding of the architecture of Office 365 groups is very important. So without proper knowledge or without the basic understanding of Office 365 groups architecture, it will be going to be a nightmare for the admins to manage teams. So due to these reasons, you should have a good knowledge on the architecture of both the teams and Office 365 groups. It is very much important. Uh, Sometimes what happens is that in some environments, the admins might have created an Yammer group and they might try to provision a team on to an existing Office 365 group which got created through Yammer. But he can't do that. But he will be uh, going around what is the problem like that. They can't. So without that basic knowledge, you can't add a team on top of an Office 365 group which got provision to Yammer. You will be just roaming around what's the problem like kind of stuffs. You can't do that. So it is very important to have knowledge on Office 365 groups, how it is working and uh, how the Office 365 groups and teams getting interacted. And then I want to provide an advice here. It is actually in Office 365 groups, there are multiple components and there are many moving parts. Actually, throughout an entire year, you will be getting tons of updates in Office 365 components. For Office 365 components, there will be major announcements, there will be design changes, and new features getting rolled out, everything. So it is extremely difficult to keep in pace with the updates in Office 365 groups in Office 365. So what I advise is that at least spend a day in the message center in Office 365. Go through the notifications that you receive in Office 365. Suppose if you can't go through all the notifications, at least you can go through the major announcements alone, or you can go through the notifications which are important for your area of interest. Maybe you might be an SharePoint admin or maybe an Exchange admin. In that case, you can filter the notifications which are related to Teams or SharePoint alone and go through that. It is extremely important. The reason is that sometimes a new feature might get rolled out, going to be rolled out in upcoming weeks or months. By default, Microsoft might turn on that feature by on. So that feature going to be available to all the users when it gets rolled out. Suppose if you are not going through the updates or the notifications in a regular manner, what happens is that that feature is going to be available for all your users. But you want to test that feature and you want to decide whether this experience is okay for my users or not. So in very first place, you might want to disable that feature before it disable that feature. So in those scenarios, if you go through the notifications in the message center, there Microsoft clearly mentioned whether this feature will be turned on or off by default. If it is turned on, how you can turn it off. Like that, they will provide proper, clear instructions of this. This is why I am advising to keep an eye on the message center in Office 365. And also it is extremely difficult for a person to be expert on all the components in Office 365. It is not at all possible in my opinion. But one can be an expert in Teams or SharePoint alone, but that's very much possible. So to keep yourself up to date on the workload, on that particular workload, please go through the message center notifications. It is highly essential. So till this point, we have spoken about uh, what is Office 365 groups and why it is important to have strong knowledge on Office 365 groups architecture. Now we are going to see what are the controls available to govern Microsoft Teams, how you can govern Teams from this point. So very first thing is that suppose if you have keep the group creation or the team creation open to all, so everyone can create a team in your intent. And what happens, so everyone, the large number of teams might get created and it will create confusions among your users. So what you need to do, we need to strike a balance who can create the teams, to keep a balance on the number of teams which get created. Suppose if you are locking down the entire team creation, you want all your employees or all your users come to an administrator for each and every creation of the teams. In that case, there won't be any proper collaboration in place, and the productivity of your users might get affected there. That's also wrong. So you need to empower your employees with yes, with the support of self-service creation of the teams. It's a proper balance. That is very much important. So that's the very first step. So now you have trusted your user, and then you have provided the permission for your users to create teams in your environment. The very second step is that as an admin, you need to sit and speak with the team owners. What are the confidential informations that you are speaking, or what are the confidential information that there are in the conversations in the teams? You need to identify those conversations. So once you understand the confidential terms or the things they are discussing in the team, what you can do is that you can use e-discovery or DLP to identify valuable content that got generated in team conversations or in the files that they post in the team site. So in the second step, you need to identify the valuable content. And then the third step is that you have identified the valuable content. The third step is that we need to protect those assets. That's the third step. How you can protect those assets? You can create policies. What you can do, you can create DLP prevention policies, or you can enforce conditional access, or you can use sensitivity labels, or you can use Azure information protections. There are a lot of controls available in both Azure and then in Office 365 also. You need to use those controls and protect the assets. That's the third step we need to do. So in the fourth step, so you have already trusted your users, and then you have taken all the steps required to protect the assets. And then you need to ensure the accountability. How you can ensure the accountability of the group or the team membership, how you can do that. You can do regular access review of the team membership by the owner. You can ask the team owners to do the access review of all the team membership. They can check whether this guest needs an access now or not. Maybe the owner might be working with an external partner or the vendor, but his work is got completed. But you have still provided the access to the team. It is not at all required now. So you can review that. You can remove that during the access review. So by using the access reviews at regular interval, you can ensure the accountability of the teams that got created. So these are the four pillars for the proper team governance. So very first thing is that you will be empowering your employees, and then you will be identifying the valuable content that got generated in your team, and then we are protecting the valuable content in the team, and then finally you need to ensure the accountability by using the proper access review in place. So to start with the Teams governance, these are the simple steps that you can do. So who can create teams? Uh, what is the naming convention that I need to follow? Whether this particular confidential team uh, can get the guest access or not. What are the meeting capabilities? Whether my guest users can join meetings in that confidential team or not. So these are some kind of governance controls that you can quick start. So we will be discussing one by one throughout this session. So again, uh, this slide just shows whatever controls available in Microsoft 365 service for the governance. And in today's session, I am not going to cover all these controls. I will be focusing mainly on the first four parts: who can create naming convention, and then the guest access, and then configuring the expiry. So only I will be covering the first four parts alone in this today's session. So very first thing, who can create teams? As we have discussed earlier, if you restrict the group creation altogether, only the admin can create the group, or you need all your employees needs approval before the group creation. In that case, the collaboration and the productivity won't be there. There won't be any proper collaboration and productivity. But at the same place, you need to strike a balance of who can create teams, how you can do that. Maybe what you can do is that you can provide group creation permission to managers alone, or you can define the users of this designation alone can create groups. Like that you can define a policy. For example, in some large enterprises, I have seen only the managers alone can create teams. Only, for example, in Microsoft, in Microsoft, their internal IT organization, what they have done is that all their full-time employees alone can create teams. Like that they have configured. So no vendors or the interns can create groups in their internal environment. Let's see how you can make these restrictions. So how we are going to do is that we are going to use dynamic Office 365 groups in Azure. So very first thing is that I will be creating a dynamic group in Azure AD. And then in that dynamic group, I define only managers alone can create groups, or only the full-time employees can create groups. Suppose if, as per your organization policy, only the IT admins alone can create groups. In that case, you can define only the admins can create groups. Like that, we are going to define a dynamic group in Azure AD. So I am in the Azure AD Admin Center, and I am in the groups blade. So first, let me explain what is the difference between the standard group and then the dynamic group. In the standard group, you will be defining the membership directly. So at the time of creation of the group itself, you define uh, uh, Alex is a member, Alan is a member, like that. XY is a member of that group. Like that, at the time of creation itself, you define it. But in the dynamic group, the membership is defined based on a criteria. For example, you want to create a group, or suppose you want to define that only the managers alone can create groups. And then to create a group for the managers, instead of using the standard group, if I am using the dynamic groups, what happens is that I will be defining the membership rule dynamically. In my case, what I have done is that I have defined that the members of this group are going to be users with their job title equal to admin. So what happens is that Azure AD evaluates evaluates the group membership dynamically. So whenever you are creating an user in your environment with with their job title admin, he will be get automatically added to this group. Suppose if you are removing and if you are removing an user's job title as admin, and suppose if you are changing that to manager or XXX, in that case this user going to be get removed automatically. So Azure AD takes care of that. The membership part, Azure AD take care of that. If you are using standard group, the overhead is on the admin. He needs to manually add the group member. He needs to remove that. He needs to take care of everything, the membership. But the dynamic groups, uh, it is gets automatically managed by the Azure AD. That's the advantage of Dynamic Office 365 group. So now we have defined a group membership that only the admins alone in my tenant can create Office 365 group. So, and then I have defined the rule accordingly. If I go to group membership, it will evaluate and show the users. So as of now, Alex and MOD administrator are the two users whose job title is defined as set as admin, and so they are the members of this group. And the second part is that we have created the dynamic group, and the second part is that we are going to define this group members alone can create groups using a script. Let me using a script. Let me show you the script now. So we are going to run this script. So once you run this script, the permissions get changed in your tenant. So assume that that this script has been run already. I will explain about this script after this demo. Assume that now this script has been run already. In the interest of time, I have already run the script. So Alex and the InModi administrator are the two users who can create teams in this tenant. So in this window, I have logged in as Alex. Logged in as Alex. If he tries to create a team, he get the option of team creation. Suppose I have logged in as some other user who is not member of that particular group. In this window, I have logged in as Alan. Suppose Alan is trying to create a new team. What happens? Let's see. You can see here, Alan does not get the option of creating the team. So this is how you can manage the team creation to a group of users alone. So in our case, we have restricted the group creation to admins alone. Now let me explain about the script. In today's session, we are going to see multiple scripts. I have documented all these scripts as a block, and then I have shared the URL for that block at the end of this slide as a last slide. You can after this session you can go through that block for further discussion, or you can use the script in your environment. So let me explain about this script. So this script uses Azure AD preview module. Very first thing, it uses the Azure AD preview module, PowerShell module. So in Azure Active Directory, all the there will be multiple settings in place. For example, there will be an Azure AD setting for a security group. There will be a different object which holds the Azure AD setting for Office 365 group. Like that, there will be several settings stored inside Office 360 inside Azure AD. In our case, we need to restrict the group creation for Office 365 groups. In Azure AD, Office 365 groups is represented as group.unified. internally in Azure AD, we represent Office 365 groups as unified groups. Suppose for security groups, it will be group.security like that. So very first thing what we are doing is that we are getting the Azure AD setting template for that unified group. Once we get the template from Azure AD, we are going to extract the setting for the Office 365 group. Now we have extracted the setting from the Office 365 for the Office 365 groups, and then uh, you can find a field called enable group creation. We will be disabling that by setting that field as false. So once you set that field as false, what happens is that it will disable the group creation altogether for all the members. In our case, we need to provide the permission to a group of users alone. So in the very next step, there is another field called group creation allowed group ID. There I will be setting the dynamic office group that we have just created in the previous step. I will be providing the group ID or the object ID of that group here for group creation allowed group ID parameter. I will set that. So basically we are disabling the group creation, and then we are setting the group creation on allowed group ID to a particular group, and then we are setting and we are saving that settings back in Azure AD. So once you've done these steps, the group creation permission will be available only to the set of users in that dynamic office group that we have just created. Now the second step. Second control is group naming policy. Since we have empowered our employees to self-service creation of the groups, they can create their groups whenever they want. Like that, we have empowered our employees. At the same time, we need to make sure they are not using any sensitive words or some blocked words in the group. We need to make sure that. And also suppose there will be some naming convention your company might be following. For example, all the groups or all the teams that are created from Singapore, the suffix should be group name underscore the country name, Singapore, like that. Or if you might define a group such that the group name underscore department, like that. You might be following some naming convention. Since earlier the admins alone might have created the groups, so they have followed the naming conventions properly and they have created the groups. Now we have provided the permissions to our users itself. But we need to make sure the blocked words or the sensitive words are not used in the groups. And also we need to make sure the proper naming convention like prefix, suffix are being followed. How you can do that? For that, we are going to use the naming policy in Azure AD. So again, I am in Azure Active Directory portal, and then I am in the groups blade, and then under settings you can find a blade called naming policy. We are going to use this. So the very first thing is blocked words. Here what you can do is that you can just download this sample CSV file, and then you can add all the blocked words words to this CSV, and then upload this CSV file back here. So once you've done that, your users can't create blocked words in the group creation. So in our case, what we are trying to do is that whenever the user creates a group, the group name suffix should contain the country name, like that. For example, I am creating a group called retail, or I'm management. The group name is management. So when I create the group management, my group name should have the suffix with the country name from where I am creating. So I have created a naming policy group name followed by country. Let's see. In our case, I have used just the suffix alone. So you can find I have used the user attribute, country or region. So whenever the particular user, in that case, I am going to create a new group. Oh, what happens is that it will check what is my country or region, and then it will append that in the group name. Similarly, if you want to do for prefix also, you can do that. I can use the attribute, and I can use any of these attributes, or I can add a standard text underscore std like that. What a prefix you want. My advice is that instead of using prefix, always use the suffix. If you use prefix, you will be saying a lot many groups in your team starting with the standard prefix. It will be difficult for your users to identify a particular team or group immediately. If you use suffix, it will be simpler for them. So we have created a policy such that the group name always contains some suffix of the country name. So let me show you the demo. So this is the user Alex. When he tries to create a team, let's see what happens. So I'm creating a new team. So you can find a notification that my company has configured a naming policy, and it will show how the group name will be. So in my case, I'm creating retail department. So this is the group name that I have given, but it will create a new group with this, with the suffix, the country name, United States. So you can find that automatically the group name uh, gets suffixed with the country name automatically. So this is how you can use the naming policy in Azure AD. So till this point, we have empowered our employees or our users to create their teams themselves. So a lot many teams get created in your environment. At the same time, as an admin, you need to manage the life cycle of all these teams. How you can do that? You can't manually check whether this team is being used currently or not, whether this team is gone obsolete or not, like that. You can't do manually. You need to define some policy, or you need to automate the life cycle process for the team also. How you can do that? For that, again, we are going to use a policy in our Active Directory in your Azure AD. So again, I am going to the groups blade. There you can see the settings called expiration. Here I can define the lifetime of all the groups that get created in my team. So I can say by default, the lifetime of a group is 180 days. So what happens is that just before 108, just 30 days before the expiration of that particular team, the team owner will get a notification that this group is going to get expired. Do you want to renew the life of this group again for another 180 days or not? Like that, they will be receiving a notification. Suppose there might be cases where there are groups without any owners at all. There won't be, the owners might have left the organization. So in that case, how you can manage is that there is a field for that also. There is a field for fallback email ID. So whatever groups without owners, you can specify an email ID. In our case, what we can do is that we can specify the admin's email ID. So the admin will receive a notification that this group has no owner. You please take care of that. That you will be getting a mail. So as an admin, what you can do is that for groups without proper any owners, what you can do is that you can contact the members of that particular group and check whether they want to nominate any members as the owner or not. So you might receive reply that we want to nominate this particular user as owner. Like that, you may get reply, or you might get reply that this group is not at all in use, or sometimes you might not be get any reply. From this, you can understand that this group is not in use at all. So you can just delete this group or archive that group. Suppose the team owner or the group owner receives a notification 30 days before the expiration, and if he does not renew that group, what happens is that this group automatically gets deleted. So in this way, you can automate the life cycle of the groups or the teams. So actually, I am unable to simulate this case in my environment, so I am not able to provide the demo for this. I have just shown the policy, how you can define the expiration policy alone. Here I have added some screenshots. In the left side, you can find the Teams screenshot. There, uh, along with the team name, there is a cartoon symbol got added. When the team owner hovers over that symbol, he will be seeing the message that this group is going to expire soon. Whether you want to renew this group or not, like that, he will be getting a notification when he clicks on that cartoon icon. Apart from that, he will be receiving a mail also that this group is going to be going to expire on this particular date. Do you want to renew or not? Like that. So the team owner needs to renew that group either from the team, Microsoft Teams, or from the mail that he just received. In either way, he can manage, or in either way, he can extend the life cycle or the life of this group. So this is how you can manage the life cycle of the group management. And there is a feature which is in private preview in Azure AD group expiration policy. That feature is called the group auto renewal based on the membership activity. So right now we have seen the demo of the admin or the owner getting the notification that this team is going to expire. You renew it with the option to renew it. Instead of that, there is a feature. What it does is that it will check the membership activity in that group. What it does is that it will check whether there are any team conversation going on in that team, or if there are any mail conversations in the group mailbox, or there are any file activities in Team SharePoint site. Like that, it will check. So if there is some activity going on, we can say that safely that this team is being actively used. So we no need to ask the owner. We can auto extend the life of this group automatically to another 180 days. Like that, we can do. So this feature is currently in private preview. So we just seen the group expiration policy. So tell the feature that group membership extension based on some membership activity. What you can do is that you can use this script that I have shown here. There is a script in TechNet Gallery. What it does is that it will check. This script, what it does is that it will check, is there any team conversation going on in Microsoft Teams? Is there any mail conversation going on group mailbox? Or is there any file activities in the team side? Like that, it will script. This script will check. And it will provide a report based on the activity. And as an admin, you can decide if you want to keep these teams or you can delete those teams. So till that feature is available, you can use this script. So now comes about the team owners. As a best practice, it is always encouraged to have at least 2 owners for a team for the better lifecycle management. Suppose if you have a team with a single owner, if he left the organization, there will be groups or the teams without any owners. That's not good at all. So it is advised always to have at least 2 owners for a team. And as an admin, we need to regularly check uh, is there any teams without any owners. So if you found teams without owners, you need to nominate the owners for the team, or you need to, if it is not at all in use, you can just delete it. How you can do that? Either you can use the team admin center or using a script. I will show the both the ways. Okay, here. I am in the Microsoft Teams Admin Center. There, if you go to Manage Teams, if you go to Manage Teams, you can find all the teams that got created in your tenant. And also it shows the owner count and the member count and the guest count also. So from the admin center, I can easily check the groups or the teams without any owners. This is one way. But using the admin center is not a user-friendly way. If you have hundreds of teams in your organizations, it is not going to be simple. Uh, in that case, you can use a script. So let me show you the script. So this is the script that you can use to identify teams without any owners. So this script uses the Microsoft uh, Teams PowerShell module. So very first step is that I'm connecting to my Office 365. Sorry, I'm just connecting to Microsoft Teams environment, my Teams environment. Once I get the connection, I am getting all the teams in my tenant. Once I get all the teams in my tenant, I am looping to all these teams using a for each statement. So inside the loop, what I'm checking is what I'm doing is that I am getting the owners alone using get team user. Using this command let get team user, and I'm specifying the query as query role as owner. I just want the owners alone. So I am getting the owners for that team, and I am checking whether it has returned any value or null. If it is null, what it means is that there is no owner in that team. So what I'm doing is that I am creating a list and then I am appending the group name or the team name into that list. So I will be doing this process for all the teams in my tenant using this for this statement. And finally, I am exporting this list to a CSV file. So this is a simple PowerShell the script that I have shared, and if you can go through that, you can easily understand. So you can use this script to identify the teams without any owners. Actually, what you can do is that you can automate or you can schedule it to run at regular interval using Azure Workbook or any other scheduler you, or any scheduler. Just run the script at regular interval and and then try to get a notification mail with this CSV. If you configure something like that in regular, every month you can check the groups without any owners instead of manually running it. So till this point, we have seen how you can empower your users and then how you can keep the life, how you can automate the life cycle process of your team, how you can manage the life cycle, or how you can delete the absolute teams that are not in use like that. Now comes the important point, the guest access. So, so to enable guest access in Teams, actually, to do this, you need to enable the guest access in Azure AD first, and then you need to enable the guest access in Office 365 groups, and finally on the Teams. Let me show you. So first thing is that I need to enable the guest access in Azure AD. So I am on the Azure AD and then I am in the users blade and go to user settings. From there you can find an option called external users. From here you need to enable the guest access in Azure AD. This is the very first thing you need to do. And then you need to enable the guest access in Office 365 groups. Let me show you how you can do that. So for that you go to the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. This is the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. And then in settings, there is a settings called org settings. If you go to org settings, you can find an option called Office 365 groups. If you click this, you can find an option to enable the guest access for Office 365 groups. If you have not enabled the guest access in Azure AD, or if you have not enabled the guest access in Office 365 groups, your team members can't, or the team owners can't invite guest users to their team. So two things we have done, and finally we need to enable guest access in Teams also. So to do this, I need to go to the Teams Admin Center. Currently, I am in the Team Admin Center. In the Teams Admin Center, go to Argwide Settings. There again, you can find settings for guest access. So you need to turn on this flag, allow guest access in Teams. Suppose if you don't have the proper knowledge of Office 365 groups, if you just come here and enable the guest access, you can't add the guest in your team. It is not possible. You need to enable in the Office 365 groups also, and also you need to enable in Azure AD also. So if you miss any of these things, you may get into trouble. So from this example, you can see to govern teams, we are using various controls. We went to Azure Active Directory, we went to Microsoft 365 Admin Center, and then we went to Microsoft Teams Admin Center. So we are using multiple controls for the proper governance. So we just seen how you can enable the guest access. In this slide, I have provided the URL for the guest access checklist. Uh, this URL is from Microsoft Docs. This explains the checklist. What are the steps you need to do when you are enabling the guest access in Teams? And if you run into problem, it will they have provided some troubleshooting steps and what are the checklists that you need to follow for the guest access. So why you need to enable the guest access? That's the question. There might be case you might be working with external consultant or the third party vendors, whatever may be. So your team needs to collaborate with the external collaborators also. So in that case, you need the guest access. So what is the benefit of using Azure AD for guest access is that when you add a guest in your team, an identity gets created in Azure AD also. So as an admin, you can manage the guest as you manage your users. So from the Azure AD portal, the users portal, you can manage the guest also. It is going to be a simple way. Simple. And then you need to have the proper guidance of how the guest access needs to be allowed. You can't just keep the guest access open uh, to all the teams. There might be some confidential team or some secret teams. They are working on some research projects where you need a strict compliance that none of the information goes to the outside world. So in that cases, you as an admin, you don't want to enable the guest access for that particular team. There might be some team there you can they are open to collaborate with the third party vendors. So you need to govern the guest access also. So let's there are few controls in Azure AD. You can govern this guest access. So the very first thing is that now I am in the guest access settings for in the Azure AD. There you can find collaboration restrictions. There I can define what are the domain names that are allowed for the guest access. For suppose if you are working with a company called Contaso, or if you are working with a company called XXX, and you want to allow the employees of that particular company alone can collaborate with your employees. In that case, you can just add the domain name of the third party vendor alone here. So your users can't invite anyone else apart from this uh, listed domains. This is one way of doing it. Another thing is that you can define a role called guest inviter role. So what you can do is that you can enable the guest inviter role to your users, the selected users alone. So only the users with this permission guest inviter role alone can add guest users. Like that you can define that. In this slide you can see in the top right I have shown a simple script add MSOL role member. There what I have done is that for a given member, for the given user, I have enabled the guest inviter role. So to enable this role, there is no UI option. You need to follow this. You need to use this script. Uh, so these are the two controls to govern the guest access. And now you have enabled the guest access and you have some controls in place. And apart from that, what you need to do is that you need to regularly or your team owners should regularly do the access reviews. Say for every month, all the team owners needs to do the team membership of their team. They will check whether whether this guest is needed or not, whether the work of this third party vendor is completed or not. If it is completed, we just need to remove that. So like that, you can keep the membership of your team clean. Apart from that, you can track the guest user activity from the audit logs. So this slide explains about the best practice for the guest access. So we have restricted as a best practice. In first place, you need to restrict the guest tax, the permission of adding guest to a tenant to a set of users alone. So we are using the guest inviter role for that. Using that, I will be assigning the required number of users alone. So only the users with that role alone can add guests to my team. And then apart from that, what you can do is that you can restrict the domain itself. Only vendors with from this domain alone can collaborate in my tenant. Like that, you can define that. And finally, what you can do is that you can disable the guest access in the particular team also. So this is how the guest access going to be. So how you can disable the guest access on a group level. In the next demo, we are going to see that. So before going to see that, again, I want to show you a script. What the script does is that this will generate a report of all the guest users in your team. So again, this uses Microsoft Teams PowerShell module. First, we are connecting to my Microsoft Teams service in my tenant. And then again, I'm getting all the teams in my tenant. And I am looping through all the teams that I have just received. And then I'm checking the users of that teams for any guest. So here, what we are here doing is that I'm getting the membership, the team membership with the role set as guest. So just I will be receiving, if you follow this command, let get team user dash role guest, it will it will retrieve only the guest alone in from that team. And then if I find there are some guests in that team, I will be appending that to a list. And finally, after completing this process for all the teams in my tenant, I will be exporting this list as a CSV file. So again, you can do this in a regular interval, maybe every month, and check uh, all the teams are in compliant fashion or not. So this is the second pillar, identifying the valuable content, and also uh, here we are going to see how we can protect the assets. Suppose consider that there is a secret team that is working on a very confidential project. I don't want any guest to know that or anything. I don't want my outside world, apart from my company, no one should know anything about that particular project. So as an admin, I want to disable the guest access altogether for that team. As an admin, you can't check each and every team. There will be thousands of teams in your environment. There may be case. Every month there will be at least hundreds of teams might get created in your environment. As an admin, you can't manually check whether this team is for a confidential project or not, like that. We need to automate this also. How you can do that? For that case, we have the sensitivity labels. This is a new feature that got introduced. We are going to use this. Let me show you the demo on this. So I am in the security and complaint center of my Office 365 tenant. And then under classification, you can find a blade called sensitivity labels. Here I can define set of labels like public, general, confidential, secret, highly confidential, whatever like that. And for each label, I can define a policy. So when you create labels, what happens is that whenever a team gets created, so I am just going to create a new team. Already I have created some labels in my environment. So when I try to create a team, you can find there is a new option called sensitivity. It's get enabled whenever you create a team or whenever you create a new team site or if you are creating a group from Outlook, wherever it can be. In all the places you can find this new option called sensitivity. There it will show all the labels. Let's see how the labels, using labels, you can enforce a policy. In our case, we want to make sure that the label with secret, the teams that are labeled as secret, no guest going to be allowed. Like that, we are going to set the policy. Let's see how we can do that. So again, now I am on the security and complaints center and in the sensitivity labels. So in our case, we are going to control the guest access for the teams. We are going to disable the guest access for all the teams labeled as secret. So when you create a label, new label, you show the very first option you will get is the encryption. You can use this label for the documents also. Suppose if you label a particular document as secret, it will encrypt by default. And then suppose if you want to add a watermark for that document, labeled as secret, if you want a watermark secret, confidential in background of that particular document, you can do that using this option. But in our case, uh, this setting, site and group settings is going to be important for our demo. So our requirement is that whenever a new team created with the label secret, that new team going to be only should be private. Yeah, secret team can't be public. It needs to be private. So I set the privacy of the team as private, and then I am not selecting this option. Let the guest access option. This if you enable this option, you can add guest users to that team. But in our case, for that's a particular secret team, I don't want to add any guest users. So I am leaving that field off. And then again, you get some more controls. Suppose if you want to block the access uh, of that team from an unmanaged device. Yeah, if any of your employees or your user is accessing it from his own laptop, personal laptop, and if you don't want to provide access for the files or the team conversations, the group mailbox, the mail conversations of any of this, if you want to block access, you can use this third option. So in our demo purpose, I am using the allow full access. Suppose if you want to block, you need to use this option block access. So we have just created a label called secret with the setting of disabling the guest access. Let's see what happens when I'm creating a team. So I'm creating a new team and setting the label as secret. So you can see the options public and argoid got disabled. Since in the label we have defined that this team should be private. So this shows only the private privacy option. I am selecting that and I'm providing some name. So once this team got created, I can't add any guest to this team. So I'm going to manage the members for this team. So I'm adding a guest user here. I'm providing some external user here. It is not allowing to add the guest users. Suppose if I try to do the same thing for some other team. This team, the management team, is not labeled as secret. So if I try to add an external user here, it will allow me. Okay. You can see here it is allowing me. The reason is that this team is not labeled as secret. You can identify whether this team is labeled as secret or not, like this. If I go to any channel or that particular team, in the top right you can find the label secret. In the same way, if you go to the team site, there also you can find the label secret. So once you set uh, the label, it will be get reflected in all the places. It is going to be an unified experience. So this is how, suppose if you have created the labels, this is how the experience is going to be. Whether it is SharePoint, whether it is in Teams, wherever it can be. There, the users need to define or set the label at the time of creation itself. You can use these labels in the documents also. So these are some of the screenshots where I am in Word, I am setting the labels, whether it is confidential, it is secret or like that. So if you label that, and then in that labeling policy, in the sensitivity label policy, we can set if it is classified or if it is labeled as secret, you just encrypt that file. So if it like that, you can define the policies. So you will be getting a unified experience in all over the places. It will be even it can be documents, it can be Teams or SharePoint or mail. Even you can label the mails also. So before the introduction of the sensitivity labels, what usually the admins have done is that they have used the classification labels. It is another kind of solution called classification labels. So to enable the classification labels, there is no UI at all. We need to use script to define classification labels for my environment. And then once you define the classification labels, the whenever you create a team or SharePoint site, team site, you will be seeing an option called classifications. In our sample, we have seen the new option called sensitivity. But if you use classification label, you will see the option called classification. So what the admins done is that we create the classification labels, and then at regular interval we will scan using a script. We will scan and check what are the teams that are labeled as secret. And then we check again whether the team has guest users or not. If it has guest access, we will remove that and disable the guest. Like that, we do it manually. We use some scripts and automation to test this. Uh, Actually, the classification labels, what we can call it as, it is a control but with no teeth. You can't make any settings at all. After the release of sensitivity labels, it is highly recommended to use the sensitivity labels in your environment. Since using the sensitivity labels, you can define the policies also. So these policies are just released 1 or 2 months back. These policies got just released. So it is very highly useful feature. Instead of using classification labels, start using the sensitivity labels. So with this, I am completing my demo. So in the first block, in my block, I have just documented whatever controls that we have seen for the team's governance, and also I have documented all the scripts that we have seen in our demo. So you can check my blog. Apart from that, you can check aka.ms/team/governance quick start. There you can find the Microsoft documentation for the governance. What are the best practices? How you need to define the adoption policies, how you can define the governance for your teams. I hope I have introduced the controls that are available in Microsoft 365 for better team governance. It is not a simple topic. I hope I have bootstrapped you or I have introduced you to some of the controls alone. So you need to take it forward by going through this documentation, and you need to think what are the controls that you can use for your environment. So thank you. And I want to say about the LinkedIn group that we have created called Microsoft Teams Learning. In LinkedIn, we have created a group called Microsoft Teams Learning. We advise you to join that group. So even after this session, if you have questions related to this topic, team governance, or even it can be any topic related to teams, you can post it there. We will try to answer you. So now let's have the Q&A.